Good evening, baseball fans. It is Sunday, April 21st. This is Bourbon and Baseball, all the balls edition. I am Susie. That is Kelsey.
What's
And
up,
away we go.
Susie?
Away we go.
I need a little more pep in your voice, Susie.
Ma'am, I don't think I can be peppy. I don't. The tone of my voice reflects the deadness I feel inside about this sport that I supposedly love.
I know the feeling, but we can't both
We both
be this way.
Listen, it's our show. Like we can do whatever we want to
Yeah,
do.
that's true. That's a good
Before we get into it though, I need to get the rated R warning because there will be all of the F-bombs, all of the four-letter words. So this is a rated R show. So if you have any littles or if that's not your jam, that is okay. But just skedaddle on out of here because there will be lots of adult language used. So with that said, we're gonna just dive headlong into all of the good news. If you are a fan of a team that is doing well, hooray for you. I'm so very happy for you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Now, Susie, I do think one of the things, since we might as well just address that, where we're at emotionally, mentally right now is not as great as some of the other fan bases. And having experienced a significantly rough start that was as bad, if not worse, than what the Astros are experiencing right now as a Cardinals fan in 2023, I can relate very closely to what you are going through right now, and even more so because the expectation is not for them to be bad, and as of late, they've been pretty damn good. So is that part of what is hard, is that the expectations were so different than what you're experiencing now?
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because see, that's if you don't expect good things to happen, then you aren't disappointed when the good things don't happen, and thus the conundrum of my baseball loving career as such. Last season, I wasn't expecting much. No, I take that back. Last season, I was okay because I had this huge black hole in my lineup that I knew was going to be in my lineup all day, every single
Mhm,
lineup,
mhm.
i.e. Martin Maldonado. And then I just beat my head against a brick wall, asking why we're not putting in Yainer Diaz. So last season, I expected what happened because there, right there, I could point to the problems, right? I point to them. I can't
Yeah.
point to them this season. I can't point to them
Right.
this season.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question for you. Is there, like, an obvious hole? And that was another really big frustration that I've had as a Cardinals fan then and now, is you can point at certain things, but there's too many things overall. It's not just one glaringly obvious problem.
Yeah, it's just a mess. It's just a big mess, and we'll jump into it. But let's tell the people's more happy news. Do we
Yeah,
have any happy news?
we do. We wanna circle back on our 40-man find segment that we
Okay.
did in the off season because we featured a player from every single one of the 40-man rosters. So Susie picked 15 guys from the 15 NL teams. I picked 15 guys from the 15 American League teams. And these were just players that we plucked out of obscurity. They were not the number one player on anyone's list for the team. They were a player that may not have even been on the big league roster at the start of the season, but there was something intriguing to us about them that we wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive on them. And now that the season has started, we are proud to come back around and tell you just how right we are and how well we know ball. So we're going to circle back with a segment we want to call 40 Man Find Shine. And our first feature for that is going to be none other than Baltimore Oriole Colton Cowser, who we featured in the offseason. He is batting 373, 415, 816 with 5 home runs in his 51 plate appearances. So, gonna bring your attention to him again because since he only has 51 plate appearances, he's not qualifying for the statistical leaderboards in terms of batting average and all of that. But he's there and he's certainly earning himself more playing time.
Yep.
And it's not like he was hot for just a week. It's now been long enough that I think we can say like he's on potentially a season long kind of heater. Have you
Yeah.
enjoyed watching him? Has that at least brought some love back into your baseball heart?
A little bit, yeah, yeah. Just really in general, the Orioles, like, in and of themselves
Yeah.
have brought a little bit of joy into my cold dead heart. Also, but just a little bit salty because they have so many good young players, Colton
Mhm.
Cowser being one of them, like Jordan Westberg also just been tearing the cover off the ball. Obviously, rookie of the year, Gunnar Henderson last season is just being amazing. And so all of those players combined, Cedric Mullins is just doing it on both sides of the plate. And just the Baltimore Orioles, they do make me happy.
They're a
They
vibe.
they look like they're having fun, right? They look like baseball is fun. And shout out to Jackson Holiday. All y'all motherfuckers that we're just clamoring for Jackson Holiday to come up and, "Oh my god, why isn't Jackson Holiday up?" and blah, 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 and y'all are the same motherfuckers now that are going after him with pitchforks.
Yeah.
People, he is 20. He is 20 years old. Stop it. Stop it. He doesn't even need to be good at this point in time because you have so many overachievers on this team. Just let him be. Let him be.
Yeah,
Okay?
let him
Just
figure it
chill out.
out.
Good night. It I
Very good point.
legitimately thought that Astros Twitter was insane. And no, all of the Twitters, all of the fan base of
Oh,
Twitters
yes.
for all of the teams.
We also
It's
the
insane.
other thing that I have learned from your Astros fandom and being, like, just getting a peek behind the curtain of Astros Twitter because of my association with you and Bourbon and baseball is that, yeah, the leaving runners in scoring position is, like, something that we all need to form a therapy group for because the struggle is real and all teams go through, like, their struggles with that, and it stings. It's like a certain type of frustration that we all really need to support each other through.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Diamondbacks fans. Diamondback Twitter as well.
It's
Cool. I'm a fan of teams that just love to leave runners in scoring position. That's so fun. I love that for me. Even when I'm not watching the team that I absolutely love, I still get frustrated with that. I'm all,
yeah.
is
Well,
there one
good.
of these teams that don't do that? No, cool. Okay. I deep dived. I
Deep
did some
dove.
research into some numbers yesterday, and we will get into those in a little while after we do this vast list of things, but interesting stats. Let me just leave it there while
Can I
we
tell you my hot take about the Orioles?
absolutely.
My hot take is that I think the Baltimore Orioles over the course of the next, like, decade are going to be the team that everyone thinks the Dodgers are going to be. Like, I think the Orioles will win more World Series rings in the next decade than the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm saying it. I don't
Oh,
care if it doesn't happen, but I feel it. So I just
I
wanted to
like
put it out
that. I like that. Okay,
there.
okay, I like it. Royals may have a little bit to say about that, but I like it. We can they can duke it out.
We've already talked about the standings a little bit, which I'm not particularly a fan of getting too into the thick of the standings until after Memorial Day. That's when I will start to really take stock in them. But I do think it's interesting to look at kind of the standouts in the standings because there are already things that are, there are outliers. There are things that are more glaringly obvious. And not only are the Astros deep in last place at 7-16 in the AL West is certainly a standout, but there is no real front runner in the American League West. Does that make you feel like at least a little bit better?
No. Yes, but no, because this entire season, I think we're in the upside down because teams that were supposed to be good are not good. Teams that we had written off are now running away with being the lead in divisions and in standings and things like that. And
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it's a fluke, like, they're actually earning it, like, the
mhm,
Brewers, who are in first place in the NL Central with 14-6. We talked a
yeah,
lot of smack in the offseason about the Brewers, and here they are.
I didn't talk smack about the Brewers. Somebody's
I
talked
did.
smack about the Brewers. That wasn't me. That I
I
didn't.
don't
That
talk a
was not on my
ton of
bingo card.
smack about the Brewers, but we basically were like, "Oh, they traded Corbin Burns, like, they're sitting this one
Yes.
out."
Yep. Yep. And
Oh.
Freddie Peralta said, "Fuck all y'all. Look what I can do."
Yes, he did.
There's that. And then Guardians heard everyone's slander and said, "Guess what we can do?" And they have been doing it. And they ate Miles Straw's center field contract and said that we cannot continue doing this. And they got somebody else in there who can hit balls. And Stephen Kwan has turned himself around. Yeah, Guardians with a 16-6 record.
You make a good point. They hired the floor, even
Mhm.
though they don't have a ton of those super standout players that are gonna be on the leaderboards for anything, really. Their floor is a lot higher than even teams like some of the Astros and the Cardinals players right now. So there's a strategy there. And the Royals are not far behind them at 13-9. And that makes sense because all we've been hearing about is how the Royals, especially offensively, are taking off. And they've played some really competitive teams. They're beating teams that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to even have a fighting chance against. And here we are, having picked the Twins and the Tigers to be duking it out at the top of the AL Central. And right now, those are the ones we're not talking about,
Yeah,
along with,
yeah, no,
the White
not
Sox,
yeah.
who
Yeah,
are
not the Twins. How the Tigers are trying to make some noise. Tigers are trying to
Tigers
make
are
some
hanging
noise
in
and
there. I think, yeah, they're like 12-10, maybe 12-10, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
so
they're hanging tough.
they're doing some things. I don't know what we're doing over here in the West. Good on you, Oakland Athletics, Los Angeles Angels. I'm looking at both of y'all.
Since you brought it up, I was gonna mention that the Oakland Athletics are ahead of the Astros in the
Mhm.
standings.
Yeah, no, I'm not shocked by it at all because as I have been beating the drum, as I have said previously on this podcast, the Oakland A's are the Astros daddy. That's not a new revelation to me. I think they can sustain it, but, we'll see.
I guess
We
that's a
shall
good
see.
question to pose. Which of these from these standouts that we're talking about do you think are for real, and what do you think will change the most?
I don't know. At this point, I all of these things have me asking myself, "Do I know ball?" And then sometimes I think I do, and then sometimes I look at my Astros team and I'm all, "This none of this makes sense. I don't understand how this is working." And then everyone's all, "That's baseball."
It
And,
is. It is.
it's just I'm all,
Isn't that the
"That's"
worst thing to hear, but also the truest thing? Oof.
yeah. Do I think the Guardians can maintain this? No. Do I think the Astros can maintain this? Possibly. I don't I don't even know anymore. At this point in time, I hope everybody loses and nobody has fun. That's where I'm going with this, is pretty much what
Thank
I
you
want
and
to
good night.
happen.
Okay, my general takes here are that again, this is maybe a little delulu, don't care. I do think the Cardinals and the Brewers are they have almost opposite records right now. Cardinals at 9 and 13, Brewers at 14 and 6. I do think they will end with like super close records within a couple games of each other. One way or the other. I'm not saying that one of them is definitely gonna win the division, who knows? Because I honestly still think the Reds have the best chance to sustain and potentially take the NL Central. I do think the Royals are probably the most for real in terms of the teams that are playing better than maybe people expected them to, which I think
Yeah.
you agree with me there, right? We saw
Yeah.
that coming.
Yep, absolutely. And the fact that the Royals, I wanna say, have the after this last couple of series is I think they still have one of the top 5 ERAs, like, for their starting
Yeah,
pitching rotation, and so,
I think you're right.
you know, again, coming from the last coming from last season to this season, are the Royals the new Diamondbacks?
I'm on board with that. Yeah,
No one expected the Diamondbacks to do shit last season, and
right.
then they eked into the playoffs and got to
Yeah,
where they are, so
they're not built terribly different either, and they've had, like, similar down years of
yeah.
having to do the strategic kind of mini rebuilds, but they've done it as well as you can without being in a top 10 payroll team. And then what about the Mets? Because the Phillies just played the Mets and they're on a 6-game win streak. So they're now 14 and 8. But even so, the Mets are still 12 and 9, which I think is better than anticipated as well. Are they going to stay
Absolutely.
competitive?
I think so. They're doing this now without Kodai Senga, with some of their starters
I don't have
that have been
JD
really
Martinez
good.
yet, right? He hasn't. I
Correct.
think they get
He's
him
not
like this upcoming series.
and Lindor is starting to heat up, which that's always interesting when that I'm like, "Wait, hold on. So you guys have been doing this without Lindor? What happened?"
Yeah.
But their young kids have been doing it. Unfortunately, Francisco Alvarez just went on the IL though for 15 days. It is a 15-day IL, but I think he has to have surgery on that thumb, so I
Does
think
he?
it's
Oh
gonna be a little bit
shit.
longer.
That
Yeah,
sucks.
so it does suck. I wanna say Nito is it Nito that's coming back? Or Narvaez? Narvaez, I think.
Oh,
I gotta
probably
look at it.
Narvaez. Yeah.
Not Narvaez. I think he's coming back, but we'll see, like, where that all shakes down, but good on you, Mets, because everyone had y'all dead. Look at where y'all now.
So we talked about the Phillies rolled out their City Connects. We talked about that, I think, just last week or the week before. The Mets rolled out their City Connects this week. And if you haven't seen them, go check them out because they're like I'll just briefly describe for the audio only people, a gray, like concrete inspired color and kind of texture to it with black pinstripes and NYC in black lettering outlined in white across the chest. And then it has cool like purple ribbing around the sleeves and like around the patch on the sleeve for the 7 train, which is like the train to Queens, which if you haven't been on the subway system in New York City, that's the sign is like the circle with the purple 7 in it. So, yeah, they rolled those out. What were your general thoughts on the Met City Connects?
The more I learned about them, the cooler I thought they were.
Agreed.
So if you zoom in on the pinstripes, it's not technically a pinstripe. They're
Ooh.
railroad tracks.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And
I
so I was
also
like,
thought, like, the gray was way
"Yeah."
cooler when you zoomed in and you
Mhm.
could see that it was like, okay, it's
Yeah.
like the concrete jungle.
Yep. And then I liked the fact that it did say NYC on it, and that was a big divide in Mets Twitter. "Oh, they
Yes.
should put Queens, and they should put" but really and truly, like, if the people from like, Flushing are not gonna wear something that says Queens on it, and a lot of the big point of the NYC was if they did put Queens on it, then they really are the Yankees' little brother, and I was all,
Yeah.
this is so fascinating to learn, like, all of the little intricacies between
Yeah.
the 2 fan bases, and
You know what I
I
learned was that the Dodgers, actually, the Brooklyn Dodgers
mhm,
were they were basically going to be forced to move to Queens to, like, where very close to where Shea Stadium actually used to be for the Mets, and the owner at the time, Walter O'Malley, did not want he was like, "Fuck no, I am not moving to fucking Queens. If we can't stay in Brooklyn,
Right.
we're going to LA." So, the fact that then, like, about 10 years after that happened, the Mets and so, yeah, it was not only were they, like, the Yankees' little brother, but they also were, like, the consolation for the Dodgers leaving.
Right.
And, yeah, I get for that reason alone of them not wanting to isolate it to being,
Mhm.
like, Queens representation, but I don't know, it's interesting because New York City, even though it is very much, you know, one big city, like, you don't have to live in Manhattan to the fucking Yankees are not in Manhattan, they're in the Bronx.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
a way I don't know, depending on what your vibe is. They're not in a particularly attractive place to go unless you like, the reason to go to where the stadium is at in the
Right.
Bronx is to go to the Yankee Stadium, the same way
Right.
that, like, the reason to go to Queens is to go to Citi Field.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I get it, but I also thought it would have been cool to have some kind of nod to Queens, but I guess that's why the bridge on the hat is
Mhm.
like the Queensboro Bridge. So, I thought
Yeah.
that was a cool way to tie it in without making it exclusive to Queens.
Yeah. And if we're talking, like, rating City Connect new City Connect uniforms, let me
Mhm.
just say that the Mets City Connects kick the shit out of Phillies. Absolutely, 1000%, 'cause no, just no. Absolutely not on the Phillies City Connect. No.
I am very nervous to see the Cardinals have announced that theirs will launch a month from today. So May
Uh-huh.
21st, they're gonna launch them and then they'll wear them. They'll like debut them on May 25th. And I put out a tweet that said, if it is not a Clydesdale costume, we riot. And Budweiser, the Budweiser account on Twitter, responded to me with the seeing eyes, leading everyone to go nuts and think, oh shit, she figured it out. Someone actually drew, like hand drew a mock-up of a Clydesdale uniform as if it was a baseball uniform. It's amazing, but I all I could think was, like, imagine walking up to Paul Goldschmidt and being like, "Hey, dude, this is what you're gonna wear to play baseball." And, yeah, so I wouldn't want that job, but I am even more intrigued, worried
I
maybe a
can't
little
wait to
bit,
see. I
but
can't
I
wait to
think
see.
from the kind of breadcrumbs that they've dropped, it does seem that it's gonna have something to do with the brewery, so I'll
Interesting.
look forward to getting your take on that when they come out.
Okay. Alright. Yeah, and truth be told, I haven't really loved any of the City Connect
Yeah,
besides
I agree.
really besides the Nats with the
Mhm.
cherry blossoms, like, that's
Yep,
my absolute favorite.
I agree.
I really haven't loved any of them,
Yep,
and some of them it just gives me I have to do the puppy dog head tilt. I'm all,
yeah.
okay."
I had one of my Twitter followers who was a Cubs fan responded and was like he tweeted to me and said something like, "Am I just like an old man yelling at the clouds or I'm over the City Connects because I don't know if they're just trying too hard or what." Like I used to think it was fun, but it's losing the excitement around it. And I totally agree. Like I don't know
Yeah,
what it is exactly that is it that's that they're trying too hard or like whatever the design approach is, it's just like missing the mark
yeah.
overall.
Well, like, the Rangers ones last season, no. There let's just say there have been far more misses on these City Connects than there have been hits for
Nailed
me
it.
personally,
Nailed
and
it.
I think another thing was why did all the teams not get them at the same time?
I don't get the rollout process of them at all. And
So,
also, was it you who told me that the Yankees don't do City Connects? I can't remember who told me that,
uh
but the Yankees do not partake in City Connects, solidifying once again that the Yankees hate fun, but
but they are though.
they're getting
This
them?
season, they're getting them. I think what was supposed to happen is they were supposed to have it for the Subway Series, like, for when
Ooh,
the Yankees played the Mets or whatever,
okay.
that's when they were supposed to roll them out, but now that I think the Yankees have not yet, and there was, like, been some sort of backlog or
Oh,
I
a
don't know.
Fanatics backup? No
Yeah,
way!
no, that's just
No
so silly.
way.
Imagine that, yeah. So, I
Imagine
don't
that.
but I think the Yankees will have some sort of City Connect, but really and truly, I think it's just gonna be, I don't know, a version of their normal uniform with I don't
Yeah,
with
I
some
do
sort of
kind
something.
of I get the argument that the teams who have, like, really iconic jerseys, the Phillies, they definitely do, the Yankees, obviously, the Cardinals, that it's harder to please. I've heard some takes that way on when you have such an iconic uniform, it's pretty hard to even the Mets, like, pinstripe uniform is really solid, so I get that. I don't know, there's gotta be something better. I will agree, though, that the Mets grew on me. Again,
Yeah,
just like you said, the more I learned.
yeah, and apparently Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso either helped design them or straight up designed them.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's interesting. Okay, I that, though, because
Yeah,
that adds a lot more of a personal touch to it. Okay,
mhm,
okay.
and so I'm like, "Oh, alright, love that."
So what
But
you're telling me is maybe Paul Goldschmidt actually had a hand in designing his Clydesdale costume.
maybe. I guess it just depends. Is he the head or is he the ass?
We will find out.
We will find out. I don't know. So I have just been having more fun watching other baseball teams beat the baseball teams that I don't like
Mhm.
this week, and that has been my solace because I love baseball. I do.
You
I
you
love
do,
baseball.
you do. Don't forget
I
it.
just I just love baseball more when my team is winning.
Another thing that doesn't make us love baseball as much as we know we do is the IL and all of the injuries. We just have kind of a handful of updates. Of course, we're not gonna hit on every single one, but these are the ones that are making headlines. The most surprising one to me was that Max Scherzer is going out on a rehab start and is quite possibly going to be back in the Rangers rotation quite possibly in early May. And I think the trajectory for him was not until at least June. We were certainly thinking, especially because of his age, it would be even later post All Star break. But here he is. He's coming back. Do you think we see Max Scherzer on a big league mound before Memorial Day?
Probably. Will Max Scherzer stay healthy through Memorial
Yeah.
Day? That's
Will he pitch more than 20 innings before Memorial Day? That might be a better question.
I don't know. And part of me is wondering if they're pushing him to come back so early because they're struggling as much as they are.
Maybe, but I think with a guy like him, I think he's probably pushing himself. I don't know though. I thought it was
I
so weird that he had that surgery, and again, there's obviously so much that we don't know, but knowing what I do know about herniated discs, I thought it was weird that he had a surgery where there would have been other options that would have managed his pain, that wouldn't have kept him out of potentially his last season or 2 of baseball here. So, in that regard, I was like, "Oh, he doesn't wanna pitch a full season because he probably doesn't think he has the stuff to maintain it since we've already seen him struggle with dead arm and stuff like that and fading later in the
Mhm.
season as it is." Yeah, maybe you're right that it wouldn't be him that's pushing to get back out there.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't know if that's gonna help them much. If you're gonna burn them now, what are you doing?
Yeah, what 3-month period do you want Max Scherzer for?
Yeah.
Because I think that he has that kind of expiration date.
So, with Cody Bradford, for them going down too, I I don't know. I just feel like it's a compounding issue for them, and I think that maybe Max Scherzer's like, "Oh, maybe I should get going," and then the team said that might not be a bad idea. But, do you burn him now? You burn him later? They've had the same issue as the Astros. Jack Leiter, who they brought up for a spot start, who they had high hopes for, didn't really get lit up by the Detroit Tigers. Javi Baez hit a double off of him, so you take that however
Yeah,
you guys wanna take that. And there was some of that defense behind him that was not great that led to some earned runs, but he got lit up for, I think, 7 earned runs, and so not the start that I know that the Rangers wanted, that he wanted. So he got optioned back down, and some other guy came up, I don't remember his name, but he got a spot start. So it's just last season they signed 43 starting pitchers. I say that in jest. I want to say that they signed like 10 starting pitchers at the beginning of the season, knowing full well that something like this was going to happen. And this season they did not do that. And so now they're feeling that crunch. Obviously, we don't want to see anyone get hurt. I just hope that Max Scherzer is not rushing back so that we see him for a couple of super awesome starts before he lands back on
yeah.
the IL.
Yeah, Jack Leiter went 3 and 2/3, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 3 walks, 3
Mhm.
strikeouts.
Yeah.
And he's been working his way up for a while too, so that was a
Yeah.
bummer to see that, but you're right, I didn't really even think about what a red flag that is in terms of where the Rangers are at with their starting pitching.
Yeah. The first and I wanna say that he was one of the darlings since he was
Mhm.
Al Leiter's son and all of that kind of stuff, but first big league hitter that he struck out, Riley Green looking, and then second at bat, Riley Green was like, "No, I got you, son."
Yeah.
And then they just teed off on him, and I felt good. His fastball is just straight, and you leave a fastball in the middle, that's what's gonna happen to it. That's just
Yeah,
what it is.
he was
So,
definitely missing the movement. We mentioned Francisco Alvarez on the 15-day IL, potentially longer with a thumb injury. Another Astros starting pitcher is down, Christian Javier.
yeah, it's so much fun. We love it here. I love it here. It's so much fun. Yeah, if you can imagine just the dumpster fire around me, that would be delightful. Christian Javier being one of 2 starting pitchers that has done well for us this season. He was supposed to start today and then got scratched due to neck discomfort. And then 3 minutes later, we get the notification saying that he was put on the 15-day IL for neck discomfort. We're all, "How did it go from he got scratched today
Yeah.
to the
Yikes.
15-day IL? What is happening?"
No way.
And Hunter Brown started today, and apparently he was given a heads up about this then, like, yesterday. Hunter Brown did start on regular rest, but today wasn't his actual day to start. He was supposed to start the Cubs series. So, unfortunately, Hunter Brown got, I say, lit up. He gave up 3 earned in the first inning, but it wasn't great. He labored out there, and I just unfortunately, I think Hunter Brown is gonna have to go back to the bullpen when our rotation gets fully healthy. Fromber apparently is coming back without a rehab start,
Hmm.
and so that's, like, good for us, but again, the pitchers that we thought we could count on, we have not been able to count on,
Yeah.
and it's the fact that today's game, we got shut out. Yesterday's game, we blew that lead. We've lost 7 games, I think, where we've led in the 7th. Yeah, that's been super awesome over here, we love it.
Wow.
So, I again, Josh Hader, Ryan Presley, Brian Abreu, all feeling it, all going through it, not doing great.
Yikes. The Astros have scored 96 runs, which is good for actually 14th. So they're still like in the middle of technically just on the right side of the middle of the pack. The Cardinals have only scored 76 runs. They've played
Mhm.
one less game. But that's why you say it's interesting where you can't, obviously, the pitching injuries is a problem, but there's not a
You
super,
wanna know something else that will just blow your mind and make all of this, if you're an Astros fan, make you feel even worse?
sure, maybe.
'Kay. Do you know what team leads the league in hits?
Um, I could look because I have it here right in front of me, but
Is it the Houston Astros with 210 hits?
are you
That
kidding?
would
Oh
be
my god, it
Yep,
is.
yep, that would be us. The Astros with 210 hits.
Okay, so then this brings me to my
Mhm.
next question for them, which is, have you looked at their run differential? I
Don't
need
tell
to
me, 'cause
know.
it hurts my heart. Yeah.
-22 for the 5th worst in all of baseball.
Mhm,
Oakland,
yeah,
Miami, Colorado, and the White Sox are the only ones who have a worse run differential than the Houston Astros right now. Wow.
yeah. Isn't that
Yikes.
super
I know this
awesome?
is down there too, but
Mhm,
yeah. Oh, yikes. All right.
yeah.
Well, that tells a
You know
story.
you wanna know, are the Houston Astros top 5 in OPS plus? Absolutely. We're 4th. Atlanta Braves, Baltimore Orioles, Milwaukee Brewers, Houston Astros. Look at
Hmm.
that. Cleveland Guardians, look, top 5. That would be very good teams. Top 5 in slug. Atlanta Braves, Baltimore Orioles, Milwaukee Brewers, Houston Astros. Look at that. On base percentage, Atlanta Braves, Milwaukee Brewers, Houston Astros. Batting average, guess what? Atlanta Braves, Milwaukee Brewers, Houston Astros. See all of these things that you would think are indicators of a really good
Yeah.
fucking baseball team.
Shit, Susie. This is
Mhm.
the Cardinals last year because their offense was in like the top. Oh, yikes. Their offense is in the bottom 5 of everything right now. But like you said, I've been talking a lot about that with the Cardinals, that there is like a glaringly obvious, there's one thing that's like not working. The other things are working. This one thing is holding them back. But the Astros, yes, while the pitching is clearly, especially on paper, the outlying thing, it's not the only thing.
Yeah. Do you wanna know what team has the most strikeouts in the league?
Couldn't be. Could it?
It's not, no. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers with
Okay. Yeah.
221. Do you want to know what team has the least motherfucking strikeouts in the league? The Houston fucking Astros with
Please.
145.
How many do the Cardinals have?
The Cardinals have
We can't have
100, right above league average.
thanks, Sonny Gray.
Mhm.
Oh,
All of these things, yeah, would be, you're like, "Oh, that's great." Runs, we have 96, right
right
in
in
the
the middle.
middle. Yeah. See, and that would be great if I didn't tell you all of those other numbers just
Right.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so interesting, and you wonder how, like, teams look at it. It has to be overwhelming, especially with a situation like where the Astros are at right now, of all of the statistics and how you could analyze all of these things for days, and then they're also constantly changing to the point where, yeah, how do you move the needle one way and not move it another way, and what matters and what doesn't, especially at the point they're at the season.
Yeah.
But another
You know what
guy on the
our
IL, another starting pitcher, nonetheless, on the IL is definitely not a good sign on paper or in any way, shape, or form.
No, and that's one of those ones for the Diamondbacks that you're just like, "No!" So Merrill Kelly went on, not technically on the IL just yet, but will because he was scratched
Yeah.
today. Slade Ciccone did a fabulous job filling in for him today, but Merrill Kelly will probably go on the IL for at least the 15-day with a shoulder strain, I think, a shoulder tear.
Right.
Teres major, Teres, that's that
Yeah,
muscle
that's
group.
it.
So he had an
That's so
MRI.
bad.
It will be, I guess yesterday he had the MRI and it was being evaluated. So, it always reminds me of David Sampson when he says
Yeah,
that and they're like, already knows what's happening. They
we
already
know.
know. They're just not telling you.
Mhm.
So it's one of those where you're like, Jesus. The Diamondbacks have a bunch of people on their IL between Merrill Kelly and Eduardo Rodriguez. Blaze Alexander, one of their rookie shortstop candidates that was doing really well for them, left with a hamstring thing. Alec Thomas, what is one of their outfielders who was one of our 40 men find guys, is out as well. Jake McCarthy's filling in admirably, but Paul Sewald, their closer,
Yeah, he's
is,
still
I
down.
think, coming back soon-ish. Not fast enough though,
Yeah.
but they've got a laundry list of people going down. The Boston Red Sox, who I have to hand up. I have to apologize to the Boston Red Sox
Yeah.
because at the beginning of this season, in the offseason, we said, Red Sox, what the fuck are we doing here? We have no starting pitching. And they all said, fuck all of y'all. Guess what we can do? So the Boston Red Sox have the lowest ERA in the entire league, 2.59. And so shout out Andrew Bailey, pitching coach who came over from the Giants recently.
Mm.
And Kyle Bodie from Driveline actually consults with them as well.
Oh, cool.
And Craig Breslow, their new GM, former pitcher, also has a hand in all of this.
Mhm.
So all of these guys doing amazingly well. Unfortunately, Tanner Houck went down
Oh, yeah.
too. So now I don't know what's happening over there in Boston, but their starting pitchers are dropping like flies as well. We don't know. But when I said Kansas City Royals had the top three, I lied. Top five
Mhm.
ERA.
I think last
Red
week
Sox,
they were definitely in the top 3 at some point, but
yeah. It's
not
Yankees,
recent.
Red Sox, Yankees, Tigers, Guardians,
Mhm.
Royals. That's the
Mhm.
top five leaders in ERA. You know where the Astros sit?
I'm gonna take a stab in the dark here and guess 22nd.
Close. 29th.
No.
29th. 5
Oh my
points.
goodness.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just the
Who's 30th?
Colorado
The White
Rockies are
Sox?
worse.
Oh, the Rockies, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, no, the Giants are right above us, Miami Marlins above them, and Chicago White Sox above them.
there you go.
Oh,
Great
don't feel
great
bad.
names to be in conversation with. Mhm.
Yeah, don't feel bad. It's a great day to be an Astros fan.
I wanted
Glad
to
to have you
circle
here.
back on Tyler Glasnow's start today against the Mets because we talked about his 14 strikeout game, and then he went out and didn't have nearly as good of a game in his next start. So we were like, sometimes this happens. You have these epic shutdown starts, and then there's something, especially with a guy like Tyler Glasnow who has a history of injuries. Did they push him too far? Was it a fluke kind of a thing? But I think Tyler Glasnow is for real because today he pitched 8 entire innings, which is something that I'm sorry, you just don't even expect that out of a guy like Tyler Glasnow. I don't need you to eat innings and be elite. Like, one is enough. Have elite
Right.
stuff and eat innings. Like, we're lucky if we can get one. Tyler Glasnow is doing both. Wow. 8 innings pitched on 101 pitches, 7 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, and 10 strikeouts today versus the Mets.
Yeah, and granted, good on you, Dodgers. You took one game. Hooray. Hooray.
Yes, the Dodgers are playing like just over, I think they're 13 and 12 or something like that. They're just
Yeah,
over 500. So the almighty Dodgers, not as almighty as predicted as well.
yeah. So the Mets won that series. The Nats, the Washington Nationals won the series before that.
Yeah, before they came to take over the Astros.
Yeah, yeah. Hooray, Washington Nationals, because nobody had that on their bingo card. The Washington Nationals beating the Dodgers and the Astros.
Yeah, so they've
Like,
only won they win 2 out of 3 with the Dodgers or all 3 of them? All 3?
no, they didn't sweep them. But they took the series.
Okay,
They
so
won 2 out of
half
3.
of the games that they've won, they've only won 10 games. Half of the games they've won have been against the Dodgers and the Astros, just
Yeah.
as we wrote it up.
Yes, yeah. And
Wow.
the pitcher today for the Nats is a guy that I guess this was his second start. The Dodgers was his first start. And I don't know about the Cardinals, but legitimately, anytime that the Astros have seen like a brand new guy, we end
Yes.
up making him look like a
I was
Cy Young
just gonna
candidate.
ask you that. I was just gonna ask you that, and I do think that is I could see them having that similarity because they have the same amount of veteran, like, guys like Jose Altuve or not Jose even Jose Altuve, I guess, but, oh my god, who are we talking about? Jose Abreu and
Oh,
Paul
yeah.
Goldschmidt, who are, like, these guys that have just been around, like, you should know what you're getting from them, who are You have no idea
Not
what you're getting from them, and you're getting the opposite actually of what you expect you're getting from them. But they also have these young guys that you expect a lot of that are also like just for whatever reason missing the mark, especially when it counts in those opportune moments. But I think they have a similar approach. And they've had a lot of the same similar people and even the same people organizationally over decades now, to where yes, that is a very similar struggle of having these pitchers, and it to me exposes how heavily you can rely on analytics and the iPad and all of that, and seeing how they can really simulate what to expect from a pitcher. And when they don't have as much on these guys, oh man, Dane Dunning last season for the Rangers just made the Cardinals look like fucking fools. And he's just one I can think of off the top of my head. So yes, I share in your frustration there. And it's interesting because I do think, again, like the formula of the Astros and the Cardinals lineup is not terribly different. So what is that kind of key component that is shutting them down against pitchers they don't have a lot of read
Yeah, I
on?
don't know. The guy today, I think, and he's a guy from Texas. I think his last name was Parks, something like that. But
Parker.
Parker, yeah. I think I tweeted 3 different times that he was gonna throw a complete game. I think he was in, like, the 60 range, 70 range in the 7th inning. We are giving him just freaking quick outs. Just I'm talking, like, 1 pitch outs. And I understand why they pulled him because he's a young kid. I say
Yeah,
young, he was,
yeah.
like, youngish, and they weren't gonna let him go because it wasn't a no-hitter or whatever, but it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. And so I'm like, "Can we work a count?" "No?" "Cool. Love that." 'Kay. And he wasn't a huge velocity guy. I think his fastest fastball was like 93, 94, but it had that vertical break in it and or that vertical rise, and then he had a really deadly curveball. I think he froze 3 different of our guys on curveballs, just looking. I'm all, "Cool, cool." So I'm like, "So you were sitting on the fastball and you just got a curveball? Is that what's happening here?" Regardless, I love it so much. It was one of those where, again, I don't up is down and down is up, and that's baseball, apparently. Apparently, I have to be patient. Let's be
Some days
patient. I wanna be patient.
is that the word they're selling you on right now too in Astros Nation?
Mhm.
Because that patience is the word that John Mozeliak and co are throwing at us, and after 2023, Cardinals fans have 0 of that, I can assure you, and after the expectations that Astros fans had, understandably, going into this season, that's not gonna suffice either.
Yeah, so it is what it is, but I don't know. I will just continue watching other fan bases and other teams like the D-backs who did go out and sign Jordan Montgomery, and Jordan Montgomery showed up today and shoved, yesterday, and shoved. He was literally everything that he was cracked up to be.
He was
He was
exactly what you would expect, which is
mhm,
just what you want. Ugh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
J Money, first start for the D-backs, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, check,
Mhm,
done,
quality
on to the
start,
next.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's gonna start against the Cardinals at Busch Stadium this coming Wednesday, so really looking
Oh,
forward to that. Stay tuned.
don't I don't know who like, I know who I'm gonna be rooting for. Go D-backs, but I did he start with the Cardinals, though?
So he was with the Yankees, and then he was traded from the
Oh,
Yankees to
that's
the
right.
Cardinals, he was traded
Cardinals,
from the
okay.
Cardinals to the Rangers, and that's all just been since 2022,
Yeah,
since mid-2022. So yeah, no, he was only with the Cardinals for half of 22 and half of 23.
okay. Yeah, so, I don't know, I guess Jordan Montgomery is just a vagabond apparently and forever home,
Which maybe
but
he will, now that we talked last week about how he has his new agent, and I found an interesting read in The Athletic
mhm.
from an interview with Cody Bellinger, who was another Scott Boras client who didn't get the
Oh,
big, long contract that
mhm.
he was definitely out there looking for. It was reported he was looking for, like, 250 mil, 10 plus years, 28-year-old, just a season removed from being one of the worst offensively in baseball. But that's the kind of magic that Scott Boras can work some of the time, not this time. But apparently, Bellinger is good. He did say in this interview with Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic that he has received a swarm of calls and inquiries of agents trying to poach him since Jordan Montgomery left Boris, which I thought was really
Really?
interesting that everybody looked at that as why not? Any sense of opportunity
Right.
to poach big clients, sure, you're going to swoop in and at least shoot your shot. But Belly made it clear that he has no plans of going anywhere, and he has had, I think his I'm paraphrasing, but pretty close to his exact quote was like, I've had nothing but good experiences so far. So Cody Bellinger, big Scott Boras guy, that's fine, but I'll be interested to see what happens for him in the next couple of seasons, as he's certainly not locked up for the long term. But some guy who is Shohei Ohtani. And we can almost go a week without talking about him, Susie, but we can't, because I do think it's worth mentioning that he did hit his 176th career home run today, which makes him uh, solely alone being the Japanese-born player that has hit the most home runs in Major League Baseball. So nice little milestone there for Ohtani.
Otani has been doing a lot for the Dodgers team, and they just keep losing. I
What is because Tyler Glasnow killing it. Shohei Ohtani, I do know he struggled with runners in scoring position, but not enough to be like problematic. And it's Ohtani.
um
It's fine.
it's that top heavy lineup, and
Yeah.
it's the bottom of that rotation, or that bottom of the lineup, just not doing it, and just not doing enough. And it also has been some shoddy defense. And
Yes, that I
some
have seen
really
that.
shoddy defense. They just called up Andy Pajes because Chris Taylor, we asked last episode if there were any players that worse than Jose Abreu and Martin Maldonado, and there was one. There was one, Chris Taylor
Taylor.
of the Dodgers.
Mhm.
And so they said, "Chris Taylor, we're so sorry, but have a seat because we are gonna bring up Andy Pajes." And Andy Pajes said, "Chris Taylor, hold my fucking beer and watch what I can do." So today he hit his first home run, which was a 3-run home run.
Wow. All right.
Mhm.
Well,
And he's been doing the most. He's been getting on base, and he's been making some spectacular defensive plays. And so good on you. Good on you, Andy Pajes. You get your shot.
it is really weird when a player like Chris Taylor, he's never been a Freddie Freeman caliber, Mookie Betts caliber player, but he has been a really solid fabric for the Dodgers for a number of years now. So it's weird to see that, and that's just how unforgiving professional performance in any sense is. But yeah,
Yeah.
Cardinal fans, we don't like Chris Taylor. He doesn't bring up good feelings for us. So
Yeah.
I feel
So
for you as a person, but not a player that I like need to see do super well. And
yeah.
interesting, it goes back to what we were talking about with the Guardians, like bringing the floor up, and the Dodgers just have too big of a gap between the top and the bottom.
How's Paul Goldschmidt doing? Is he doing any better since the
Um,
last episode that we recorded?
Not terribly. We're taking it day to day. He got moved he usually bats second or third in the lineup. He
Mhm.
got moved down to the fifth spot, which
Oh.
was tough. Oliver Marmol said he had that conversation with him and he took it like a pro's pro. He said,
Right.
"Do what you got to do. You're not going to hurt my feelings." Like he fucking knows
Mhm.
what's going down. And as the odds would have it, he came up today. The first time he hit in the fifth spot, he came up with the bases loaded and he
Of
fucking
course he
popped
did.
out. So
Of course he did. It's gonna fucking find you. It's gonna fucking
yeah.
find
So
you.
he's getting hits, and we have seen a number of better swings, I would say, from
Okay.
him in the past week than before, but the numbers have no, it's gonna take a while to turn them around. But it is just so weird to have a guy who was literally like your only hope most of the time last season, and by far your best hope in 2022, like really since he's been on the Cardinals, be like an all but an automatic out at this point. Like it's really rough.
Yeah. It's one of those where I have to look at other teams
Yeah,
of,
totally.
like, of really good players to
Yeah.
make myself feel better. So,
That
Aaron
perspective is
Judge
important. Yeah, because
Aaron
again, yeah,
Judge is
circle back.
batting 179, that's his batting average, guys. His OBP is 323. His slug is 359 plus of a 98. Now granted, 100 is average, guys. 100 is average. Just keep that in mind. But when we talk about,
Average players getting paid $40 million a year.
yeah, these are not Aaron Judge numbers, right? So he's had 27 strikeouts so far, and he's walked 17 times. Again, not Aaron Judge numbers. So Aaron Judge not doing it. Okay. Another guy who is not doing it, Julio Rodriguez. What's happening over there, Julio?
Ooh,
Yeah. Julio Rodriguez. A little bit better, just not great though. His batting average is 256. Okay. His OBP 301. His slug is 295. And his OPS plus is an 80. So, not great, 0 home runs, 3 doubles,
damn. That's
striking out 20. He has 27 strikeouts in 20 games.
wow, that's really good perspective. You're right, this is making me feel better.
See? It's
Every
all
team
about.
every team has these guys that they're looking at being like, "What the hell? This is not what we expect from you." And I don't know, with a guy Jose Abreu is a slightly different situation because last season was that season where you were like even before, like, he had regressed with the White Sox before, right? He came over, so
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
writing
I
was
mean,
on the
he
wall a little
he
bit.
he ended on a hot streak for us. He ended on a hot streak, and I was really hoping that that hot streak would continue. But he's 37, guys. It's gonna find you. It's gonna find you, and it's not gonna be great. Bryce Harper, okay? Bryce Harper has 20 strikeouts in 20 games. All right, so that's making me feel a little bit better. 237, 326 with a 447 slug. So he's got 4 home runs. Bryce Harper has 4 home runs. I need you guys to know that he's had 2 multi-home run games this season. So all of his home runs have come in 2 games.
Names. Wow.
Okay, so just while yes, Astros fans, we're sitting here bitching about Jose Abreu, like, absolutely, because again, while none of these have negative OPS pluses, didn't think that that was a thing, but it definitely is. There are there are players on other teams who are getting paid a lot of money, not
A
pulling their
lot.
weight, okay?
Yeah, and had
And
way
so
higher expectations for them than a player like Jose Abreu. That's the biggest difference, is at this point, there is his level, and while he's still definitely not meeting it, it's
yeah,
not anywhere close to where, yeah, Bryce Harper, Aaron Judge, Julio Rodriguez numbers are expected to
yep,
be. Yeek.
yep. All it's had to be put into perspective for me,
Yeah.
so now I'm just sharing that information with y'all.
I have a
Hopefully that
really
makes
hard
you guys feel
time
better.
with critical as anyone over the build of a team and just like the logic behind it from the information that we do know. And of course, there
Yeah,
you always want to assume there's things that we don't know and big variables that we are just simply not aware of. But the one thing I have a really hard time with is people just being like straight up mean and so hateful and critical of any player, no matter how bad they're
right.
doing, because they are one of very few people in this world that is elite enough. Like even the worst Major League Baseball player is the 0.00001% of everything. So it's just incredible that they've even made it that far. And obviously, no one is more frustrated than they are with
Mhm.
them not performing up to expectations, especially the ones who don't have that big guaranteed money yet. And even if they do, a lot of times we see guys perform their worst in the year that they get the big contract because of the pressure of playing up to that value. So there's just all kinds of things, and what's definitely not gonna help them is us being like, "This guy sucks, get him off my team," and saying just, like, the
Yeah.
absolute worst fucking things you can think of. I can't even think of the kind of terrible things that I see, but I get it. It's totally fair to say, "I don't think this guy fits in this spot in the lineup." I think the team just needs to look at this objectively and make different adjustments, but think about how you would have to talk about it if someone at your job was not performing up to standards. Like, it's a difficult thing to deal with,
Mhm.
and a lot of times baseball is interesting because of the nature of the guaranteed money, and that's just something that is always gonna play a factor into how teams decide to manage out these players.
Yep. Yep, and so it's just Dana Brown, our GM, had said in one of the quotes saying that there's no way to sugarcoat it. He's scuffling right now. He knows that he's scuffling. It's wearing on him. It's wearing on our hitting coaches. Maybe he can catch fire after a few days off. That's what we've, as a fan base, have been asking for. Because again, like last season, he was best after he was rested. After
Mhm.
and so at this point, I'm like, platoon him, do something. But the fact that his some of the defense wasn't there as well.
Mm,
At least last season, when the bat wasn't there, like, the defense was still there most of the
totally.
time, and this
That's
time it's
big.
just it hasn't been, and we're all, "What is
Yeah,
going on?"
that's when it's
And
just
so,
to move on.
it's
Ugh.
it's so bad, and part of the frustration is that signing and Rafael Montero, one of our relief pitchers who just absolutely sucked last season, they were signed when we didn't have a Crane, and and Jeff Bagwell, Reggie Jackson, literally made these moves before Dana
Okay.
Brown was hired.
Ah,
And so, in order for something to happen, Jim Crane is going to have to admit,
yeah.
"Shit, maybe I fucked up. Maybe I done fucked up, and then now I gotta eat this contract." And we last Bourbon and Baseball Astros edition, I had gone on a tangent and rant and was all, "Jim Crane, you've gotta eat this contract. You've gotta eat this contract. The Diamondbacks fucking ate this contract. They ate Madison Bumgarner's contract. They ate Nick Ahmed's what are you doing? You gotta eat this contract." But
It'll be interesting to
eating the
see. I think
contract.
what needs to happen now for that to happen is the team needs to be competitive enough by the middle of the season, like the Diamondbacks were, where they can
Mhm.
say, "Okay, we've got to cut this dead weight," because otherwise they'll just drag it out, which I
Yeah.
do not envy.
No. And so I don't who is the other Oh, you do have a first baseman. I was like, but you have, like, actual first basemen that, like, are good first baseman backups. So if Paul Goldschmidt
Yeah.
did have a seat, like, you had good people backing we don't
Yeah, there are
I take that
ample
back.
options over here.
We do not
Um,
have ample options.
but
Let's
yeah,
just
I
leave it at
think
that.
again, the biggest difference between Paul Goldschmidt and Jose Abreu is their performance from 2022 and 2023.
Yeah.
Like, there was no reason to believe that Paul Goldschmidt should be regressing to the point of maybe this is your last year of playing baseball
Yeah.
in 2024, but who can say at this point?
Who can
Only
say?
time will
I don't know.
tell.
Yeah.
Well, I
So it'll
personally
be interesting.
I wanna do a happy birthday shout out here, Susie, because I don't know if I've ever actually gotten your take on this, but I firmly believe that the Philly Fanatic is the most elite mascot in all of sports, and today the Philly Fanatic turns 46 years old. The Phillies wore their spring training hats that had the Fanatic on them, in celebration, and one of the players, I can't remember who it was, had, like, fuzzy Philly Fanatic cleats on. It was so fun. What do you think about the Philly?
The wasn't it Ronald Acuna Jr. that had the no, that was Blooper. Just kidding. Just kidding.
No,
Ronald Acuna Jr.
Blooper's pretty
Blooper.
solid too, but he's like a knockoff
But see, that's what
of
I was thinking. I
Philly
was like, "Wait,
Fanatic.
Blooper looks exactly like the Philly Fanatic."
Yeah,
So,
let me find it here of which player
I
it was.
honestly, I have not spent a lot of time thinking about mascots and their eliteness, so I don't have a opinion on this matter, but apparently you do. So, I'm glad that
Oh,
the Philly Fanatic fills you with that much joy.
okay, I lied. You were right. It is Blooper. Michael Harris too has fuzzy Blooper cleats. I saw
Okay.
this, guys. I was excited to find out that it was the Philly Fanatics' birthday, and I just assumed. But actually, these Michael Harris 2 fuzzy Blooper cleats are pretty awesome. Blooper is throwing money into the air, and then the tongue of the shoe is all fuzzy. Wow, that's fun. Bryce Harper, where are the Philly Fanatic cleats? Get on this.
Yeah.
Fuzzy Philly
So,
Fanatic cleats. You don't
yeah,
have a favorite mascot?
I'm okay, so, like, really and truly, I could name 3 of them off of the top of my head. Blooper, the Philly Fanatic, and Orbit, and they
Orbit's
all
pretty
look
solid.
the same.
Yeah.
They're all green.
Did you know that the Dodgers don't have a mascot? I learned that
Yeah.
last week
Yeah.
on my Dodgers deep dive. They do not have a mascot. Like,
But
straight up,
why
they just don't have one.
and why is the Rockies mascot a
A
dinosaur?
dinosaur. I don't
Why?
know. Dinosaurs don't live in the Rocky Mountains. But
Like, I
Dinger is
saw
great. He is aside it out of context, a Dinger is a great mascot, but yeah, no, I guess I hadn't thought about how that kinda ruins it for me, but it makes
I'm
no
like, that
sense.
doesn't make any sense. Like, why I guess they were trying to figure out something that could be a mascot and can't be a mountain. That would be weird. Can't be a
Yeah, but
tree.
it could be
Yeah, I
like
guess it
a
could be a tree.
bear or something that lives in the
Yeah,
mountains.
but then you could be like, well, I don't know. But I guess it's the same thing, like, why isn't the Diamondbacks mascot why is the Diamondback mascot not not a snake? So,
That's a really good question.
yeah.
I feel like they
So,
definitely need a snake at this point.
they do, but how can, like, the actual mascot do the slithery moves
I
in
don't
you
know, but
know?
I need someone to figure it out.
Yeah.
You
So,
can do this,
because I
Major
wanna
League
say
Baseball.
it's like a I think it's like a cat of some sort.
Yeah, it is like a bobcat or something.
It's a bobcat or of
Yeah,
some sort,
some kind of
and so
feline that is
mhm,
native to
the
Arizona.
desert.
The
Yeah,
desert, rather.
yeah.
That.
So, if anybody can answer me why the Colorado Rockies mascot is Dinger, I would love that. Like, it's a purple dinosaur. It's adorable. I love it. But I don't understand why or how. Like, orbit makes sense because space, orbit,
Yeah.
got it. But I still don't understand why Blooper did it change? Was Blooper the
Yeah.
original mascot?
No,
Or did it change
so I
from
wanna
an
say they did have
Indian?
a yes, they did have
Okay,
an Indian chief, and Blooper was introduced to
okay.
replace that.
Then okay. Now okay, so that makes sense, okay. But the Philly Fanatic, like, what just nobody could say what a Philly was, so just green alien fanatic looking thing just was more. Alright, so, again, if anybody has that story for me, I'd love that. Put that in the YouTube comments.
I
That'd be
don't
great.
think there is a lot of logic behind the Fanatic's origin. He just is.
Do the Red Sox have a
Oh,
mascot?
the Phillies actually had before they had the Fanatic, they had Fighting Phil and Fighting Phyllis, and they were, like, pioneer dressed, like the big heads, you
Stop it
know?
right now. Stop it
Yes.
right now.
So that's what they tried to do, and they were like, these are not popular, these are not working." Thus, the Fanatic was born. So that's actually what makes me love the Fanatic even more because of how absolutely tragic their mascot
That's
attempt was
awesome.
before. Yeah.
Okay. So apparently we had before we had Orbit, we had a jackrabbit, I think. The
Ooh.
Astros, it was like a rabbit, I think. But it had was it a rabbit? I wanna say it was a rabbit. I'll do some research before our next episode on this, but I'm almost positive it was a rabbit. And it had a little snarky name too.
It is
But yeah,
interesting
it
too.
was like in that brick red and gold
Oh,
navy
yeah,
era,
yeah.
and I'm not about that era. Okay, it goes from Tequila Sunrise,
Vernacular.
okay? Tequila Sunrise Astros to, like, now Astros. That's I don't even admit that there was, like, the brick red and gold Astros. None of that. I
That
hate
was
that
the,
era.
like, the National League Astros.
It doesn't make me happy. But yeah, so if you guys have any fun mascot stories, we're just gonna end on that, fun mascot stories, because
That makes
I
people
would love
love
that.
baseball, right? Let's feel
Yeah,
good.
it is feel good. Actually,
You're
you know
right,
what?
they had okay, the Astros had an Astrodillo, an armadillo, and Astro Jack, who was a bunny,
Astro
and
Jack, there we go.
he looks crazy, he looks
Mhm.
insane. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
right?
How?
Yeah.
Yeah, Orbit is a step up for sure.
Orbit is adorable, and we like him better. Actually, I do have a feel-good story, and I just remembered this.
Yes.
So, we always talk about the comeback stories, the players that like Tyler Matzik, who was our 40-man find from
Yeah.
the Braves, who had been out of baseball for a long time and then came back into baseball. So we now have a Red Sox pitcher, Cam Boozer. Okay. This, like, how can you not be romantic about baseball? This is what we're going to end on because this makes me happy. It's a 31-year-old former Carpenter, Cam Boozer, that finally made his MLB debut with the Boston Red Sox. He walked away from baseball in 2017, became a carpenter after a series of injuries and setbacks, and finally he came back, and he is the oldest franchise player to make his major league debut since 1947.
Wow.
Apparently, he started his career with a broken femur and a broken vertebrae from lifting weights in high school.
Oh.
Then in his freshman year at Oregon State, he had Tommy John, and he only was able to pitch 11 innings of D1 baseball.
Oh my
The
god.
Minnesota Twins still signed him as an undrafted free agent in 2013, but disaster struck 2 years later when he was hit by a car and broke his back while recovering from surgery for a torn labrum.
You are kidding me.
Oh my gosh, no. In 2015, he was suspended for 50 games for testing positive for marijuana. After all
Way
of
to
those
manage his
things,
pain,
yeah,
jeez.
I'm like, "Give that man all of the weed, okay? Good night."
Seriously.
And so
No.
after the 2017 season, stepped back from baseball, but after 4 years of working as a carpenter, Boozer began coaching youth baseball, fell back in love with the game, and started throwing again, realizing he could throw high 90s without feeling pain. I didn't think about ever actually making a comeback until I started working with them. It was just the more I was around the game, the more I couldn't not be around it. It was like it just pulled me back in. That summer, the Chicago Dogs of the American Association signed him, which was one of the independent leagues, and he soon caught the eye of other teams too, eventually getting the call up to the Red Sox. So when Boozer took the field on Friday for the Red Sox with his family in the stands, he took a moment to collect himself before heading to the mound where he pitched the ninth inning, tallying one strikeout while allowing one earned run in his team's 8-1 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Damn.
And it says, afterwards, he sat alone on a bench, overcome by emotion as his teammates walked past him to pat him on the back. It's by far the best moment of my career, he told reporters, something I'll always remember. So while baseball can break your heart, it can also warm it as well because that is delightful. And I love
Yeah,
that.
that is truly
And I hope he can stick on this Red Sox
yeah.
roster, just like how Tyler Matzik is still one
Mhm.
of the Braves relievers now. So I'll be watching this story and seeing how that comes to fruition
Yeah,
later
he's
on.
definitely an honorary 40-man find.
Definitely,
Sure.
definitely. So, Cam Boozer, congrats, sir. That's an amazing story, and the clip just made my cold, dead heart just explode. Like,
Well, Susie, the
love
other
that.
thing that we should mention is that if 48 hours from now, we're gonna be together in
God,
person. So
I'm
we
so
gotta do
excited.
we will cheers in person to
We
Cam.
will.
How about that?
That we will, and I have tiny mics, not like
Oh,
my
yeah.
husband, like, not tiny little versions of him, but, like, actual microphones, tiny little microphones, so we will be
I have
doing
one too. I'll bring mine.
yes, we will
Here's
be
my
doing some form of content. I don't know what yet, but we will do
you
something
know
fun.
we'll come through.
Yes, so with that, tell the peoples where they can find you on the interwebs, Kels.
On Twitter is the best place to start for the baseball content at KBirdTweets, KBURD tweets. So clever, I know. If you're not on Twitter, you can find my Facebook page at which is Peace Love and Baseball. And if you're not on Facebook, maybe you're on Instagram at peace.love.baseball. Peace Love and Baseball is available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. So if you found me here, you can find me there too.
Definitely, definitely. So, with that, we are going to wrap it up and say, "Yay, baseball!"